Meow 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 everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. Monthly chart of Mara. I don't have a whole lot of updates. The only update I have is that it's lagging behind Clean Spark and everybody's upset about it when they're holding Mara. There's a lot of people probably end up selling Mara and they bought Clean Spark to kind of chase after the next shiny thing. A lot of people are kind of wondering as to why Mara is kind of lagging behind. The truth is that it doesn't really matter as to what you think the reason is. The very key thing is that it is working out its own technicals and is still hitting some pretty important resistance right around here, and is still trying to figure out its own thing, trying to figure out what it wants to do next. So that's just its own story. Every stock has their own story, and it doesn't always have to follow what you think it's going to follow, what sector it follows, and also it doesn't always have to kind of do what you think is going to do based on the underlying asset that it's correlated with, such as Bitcoin. Right now, it's making a little bit of this pretty bullish ascending triangle pattern. Usually, it's basically showing you that price is trying to eat above the supply when demand is increasing. So that's the idea behind the ascending triangle, and so far Mara has been showing very much a very nice ascending triangle here, which is generally pretty bullish pattern. The expectation, if this pattern works out, is going to maybe bounce around here, and then eventually it's going to break above. And when it breaks above, generally it can be pretty impulsive when it does do that after a period of consolidation here. And you can see that based on volume too. It's not like clean spark, you just kind of like a straight line up. You've had a lot of consolidation over here. Mara had the highest trading volume. The trading volume back in January was absolutely insane. And since then, I think Mara has just been kind of cooling down. It's just been doing its own thing, going sideways, forming a little bit of ascending triangle here, maybe consolidating here, waiting for a breakout. Whereas the volume just kind of been declining since January, which is not unexpected for the stock. You can't just think about stocks from day to day. You have to think about them in a longer term trend in terms of where price movement is going to be throughout the bull market. Unless you're a day trader, that's a different story. But this is a very much of a ascending triangle over here, which is generally a pretty bullish thing. It's been about 4 months trying to break about this range. I think once it breaks about this range, it's going to be pretty bullish moving forward. This whole range right around here is also the top of this volume shelf, so I think that once it breaks above, it could potentially up to like for the 40s and 50s in a hurry. When it does that, when is it going to happen? Is it going to be in April? Is it going to be in May? Is it going to be in June? I don't know. All I know is the longer it spends time to consolidate around this range, the more impulsive it's probably going to be when it happens. I'm starting to kind of see this kind of very, very similar to this area over here. In terms of the part of, of the cycle, I see these kind of sideways consolidation to be very, very similar to this side consolidation over here too. And if you also look at some another indicator, which is the what the big money is doing in terms of inflow, you can look at the L3 banker fund flow trend oscillator. If you look at that, you can see that over here, where the price just kind of consolidated, just doing nothing, is kind of forming a very, very nice bull flag over here. You actually have continued to have pretty parabolic buying over here. I think we're kind of seeing very, very similar kind of going up like that with the inflow on the monthly. I think we're seeing very similar pattern here where the inflow has just been going up exponentially. It's just been eating a lot of the supply above, whereas the price just kind of been going sideways. So there's a lot of energy that's being built up. Once the supply is gone, price is going to push up much higher, much faster. And right now, I think we have enough of the whale kind of eating into that. Even though price is kind of consolidating sideways, there's a little bit of kind of like reaccumulation based on what I'm seeing based on the whale data here. And you can see once from the last cycle, once this kind of sideways consolidation, once the bull flag is done, the whales were like, okay, let's pump the stock, and it just kept on going parabolic for like 5 months. I don't know whether or not the same thing's going to happen here, but it looks like it's been very, very similar setup here and here. So maybe April, maybe May, maybe June. I don't know, but I certainly don't really feel like I need to sell up of my Mara. Based on technicals, I think something pretty decent is about to happen. I don't really feel strongly about selling out of Mara and trying to chase Clean Spark, especially when Clean Spark is now just freshly hitting some resistance, and on the weekly you're starting to see a little bit of a bearish divergence on RSI with price, you want to watch my Clean Spark video. I'll tell you a lot more about that. But this is my Mara video. A couple indicators I want to show you. One is the Ichimoku cloud. You continue to have a bullish cross right around here. I was initially hoping that the price will close the month of March above the Tenkan, but so far it does look like Tenkan is probably going to end up being support here. Price did go back down and tested the Kijun, held, bounced up, and earlier in the day it actually was a little bit above the Tenkan, but it did end up closing a little bit below it. This is a monthly chart. Month's not closed yet. We still have 2 trading days. Generally, the end of March is a little bit of a slower time. The volume generally is a little bit less. And the volume for Mara particularly has also been a little bit less compared to the last couple of months. So just because if the month ends up closing below the Tenkan, the red line right here, is not the end of the world. What I like about the most about Tenkan is that it's been kind of staircasing, I guess you'd say, upwards, which means that this is a pretty positive kind of support. I suspect that if it closes below it, it's probably not going to close below it for too long. And I suspect that it's probably going to be pretty decent, pretty bullish moving forward in terms of staying above the Tenkan and using it as a support moving forward. Did have a pretty bullish Tenkan Kijun crossover over here last month. That's usually a pretty good indicator that it's going to be a pretty sustainable monthly bull trend moving forward. And the other indicator I generally like to use is the Bollinger Band. He's seeing a Bollinger Band expansion up and down. You've seen the 20-month moving average continue to curl up in a very, very nice manner. I think that once price breaks about maybe 30 to around really like 32 or so, once price breaks about like 30 or 32 or so, it's probably go up to the 40s, maybe even like to 50 in a hurry. Why I also came with that target, in addition to looking at the shelf over here, is also looking at the Ichimoku cloud. The Ichimoku cloud so far right now, if price breaks about here, I can see it hitting the cloud around low 40s, which is going to be a pretty, potentially pretty bigger resistance up here. But that's a pretty nice gain. But that's kind of the next thing that I'm seeing that I could do. And that's it for the monthly chart. Let's look at a weekly here. If you look at a weekly Ichimoku cloud, very interesting too, has been trying to use the Kijun as support. Kind of had a little bit of a tweezer bottom, if you will. So usually you see a tweezer, it's a pretty decent bottom. I was suspecting price would probably bounce back above. So far, price is still kind of back tested the Kijun here. Looks like initially it held, but then it kind of fell below it today. I still suspect that Kijun continue to serve kind of as a little bit of support together with Tenkan, kind of push up a little bit higher through time. Tenkan is still above the Kijun. This is still a pretty bullish trend. Everything is above the Ichimoku cloud. But so far, the volume is just basically telling you that things are just consolidating. And this downtrend right here happened in low volume over week, really about 4 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago. This selling volume has been really, really steadily declining. So I do think that we're getting some pretty, big exhaustion in terms of selling pressure over here. And the next logical move after you make a tweezer bottom, after you get like a little bit of exhaustion here on the selling trend, is to go up. We'll see what happens. The other thing also I'm still pretty bullish about it is if you look at the bull market support band, the price broke back above the bull market support band, and the bull market support band is still possibly slope. It's going to probably push up higher, push up price higher. This is a pretty decent setup, so there's a lot of reason why I'm not leaving Mara to chase Clean Spark, because Mara has a pretty decent bull setup here on its own that I'm seeing, that I'm pretty encouraged by. But if you also look at all the other weekly moving averages too, including 50 and 100, they're really starting to stack. Everything's starting to stack on the bull side here. Even 100 moving average is really starting to curl up a little bit. It's flattened and starting to curl up. You have a full, very nice weekly bull trend. It's probably going to keep pushing price up a lot higher. And I like those setups so far. This is really mostly all the weekly things that I'm seeing here. Now, I'm being asked to separately, in terms of price target, Nobody really knows what price target is, right? I think if you're talking about irrationality, I think you're looking at asset that is going through some higher high and higher low and higher highs. You're looking at a pretty nice bull trend that's probably going to end up keep happening for quite some time. Because if you look at the Bollinger Band, the 20-month moving averages just start to curl up, which means that we could just be right at the spot right over here when it's just start to curl up. You see a lot of similarity between here and here, right? I do. So because you starting to see the beginning of the bull market here, I think that there are potentials for this to get pretty irrational. And when it does get irrational, you're talking about some pretty crazy targets. Let's look at the previous cycle high and the cycle low and see what kind of potential targets you can see with the Fibonacci extension levels up here. Assuming they mix back to an all-time high, which is going to be 84, there's a potential it could hit some of the higher levels. I mean, 1.618, 2.618, these are levels that could potentially be hit in a pretty parabolic bull run. You might be wondering, oh, I'm not even sure it's going to hit all-time high because all the dilution that has been going on. True, but Mara also has a very small market cap. It only has a market cap of like $5 billion. And it doesn't really take a whole lot to actually pump the stock. And unlike some of the other, like bigger stock names, like it actually doesn't take that much liquidity to push more up higher. I'm not surprised if it ends up hitting triple digits by like 2025. I'm not surprised if it hits like 200. To be honest, I think it's not unrealistic to expect that, depending also how Bitcoin is going. If Bitcoin continues to go like 4x, I think there's a potential for Mara to go up, like 10x. It's not unheard of, despite the fact that there's constantly dilution going on. Because once Bitcoin Bitcoin keeps going up, these miners are going to make a ton of money. Things can get pretty irrational, and eventually the valuation has to catch up with that. That's it for Mara. I wanted to go for another one that has been frustrating myself as well. I don't even know what to say. Like last time I sung about the stock, it just hasn't done very well after that, so I'm sorry about singing about Bitfarms. I won't do that anymore. I won't sing about Bitfarms anymore. But it's just been a little bit very frustrating. Even I feel the frustration. So I feel not very good about this whole week. Especially with the CEO leaving. I still think that Bitfarms is one of the better miners. I still think that they're going to do great during this bull cycle, but it's a little bit frustrating, especially during this week when Bitcoin bounced back up above 70K and Bitfarms didn't really do anything, and then Bitcoin kind of correct a little bit and Bitfarms just go down a few percent. I feel it too, right? I have a position in this. I feel it too. But so far, if you just objectively look at it, I'm not even going to show you any like fancy indicators or anything like that. You see what this is happening, right? You see that there is a head and shoulder, inverse head and shoulder, if you will. Shoulder, head, shoulder, bounce, back test. Back test a couple of times. So far, it's still kind of like a back test at this level right here. This is a pretty strong volume shelf around like 2.3, 2.2, 2.3 around here. Is so far right now is doing like a little bit of a low volume back test onto this level over here. After this very nice breakout of this inverse head and shoulder pattern. So I'm not really that bearish on it. If you look at some of the indicators, I can also put up, this basically look very, very similar to Mara. If you look at the L3 Bank of Fund Flow Trend Oscillator from Black Hat, inflow is still very, very much very nice going up over the month. Even though there might be a little bit of outflow towards the end of the month, overall the month still show increase in inflow, right? If you look at a couple other things too, for example, if you look at the Bollinger Bands, you can see that there's expansion of the Bollinger Band. It's just not as impulsive as Mara. Price is still spending majority of the time above the 20 moving average period, which is the 20-month moving average over here. 20-month moving average is still pointing up, so this is still a pretty nice bull trend. There's a potential for it to for this to be the beginning of a pretty powerful bull trend here as well. That's building up because the Bollinger Band are still kind of a little bit expanding. And this right here, it does kind of look a little bit like a bull flag, doesn't it? It does look like there is a little bit of bearish engulfing over here. I mean, there are 2 more days before it closes. Could it go down a little bit further before it bounces up? Sure, there's always that possibility. I do not like the bearish engulfing look, but having bearish engulfing look on the monthly is actually not necessarily the end of the world. Um, there are some examples I show you of other stocks as not the end of the world, especially it's not like a crazy bearish, it's just kind of barely engulfing. Plus, you have a wick right up here too, so I'm not really too concerned about it. Although there is a little bit of bearishness that's happening. It's just not as powerful as Mara, if you will. But it's still doing the same thing, bullish band expansion, 20-minute range crawling up. It's still looking pretty decent in terms of longer term. The other thing, in addition to the Bollinger Band, you look at the Ichimoku Cloud. Looks like next month you're going to end up having a bullish Kijun Tenkan cross. The red's probably going to bounce above the blue. I was hoping that this month the price would close above it, kind of like Mara, where it's just kind of getting above one of these two right here to use as support. I was hoping that Bitfarms would do the same. So far, it's not able to do that. This week has been very, very frustrating. And so far, it's making the technicals a little bit harder to meet, but that's okay. It is what it is. I'm still, the stock doesn't have to do what I want it to do. The indicators doesn't have to do what I want it to do. You have to take it as it is. You have to constantly reevaluate. This still look like a bull flag to me. Can price go down a little bit further because there's a little bit of bearish engulfing candle right here? Yes. Can it go down a little bit further because so far price right now is below both the Tenkan and the Kijun, and both of these potentially serve as resistance for a little bit longer? Yes. But all this is happening on relatively low volume compared to before. And it still seems like a high volume breakout, declining volume backtest of this inverse head and shoulder pattern. I still find this to be a pretty decent setup, and I'm still going to be in it for now because I'm still not seeing any significant breakdown on the longer term technicals. If you look at the volume shelves over here, is still trying to find support at the volume shelf around 2.2, 2.3. And this is going to be a very, very important kind of support level here because that was kind of the breakout above this neckline of the inverse head and shoulder here. Once you're able to break above this range, there's a lot of resistance between the 2.2 and really all the way up here around like 3.6 or even like at $4. Once you're able to break above all this resistance right here, you're talking about going to $5 in a hurry. You're talking about there's the Ichimoku Cloud starting to form right here. You're talking about price just going up there in a hurry. I still am bullish on this stock long term, although I do see some not so great thing in terms of this momentum currently. But you have to look at the bigger picture, and so far this still looks pretty decent to me. Now let's look at the weekly chart. If you look at the weekly chart, there are a couple of things I also want to point out. First of all, this is still forming higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. This is still very much a weekly bull trend. Matter of fact, if I have to draw things, you can see that things have just kind of been channeling up. This is a pretty classic bull flag here, as it continues to form these higher lows and higher highs as it continues to go up on the channel. And as this downtrend over here has also been happening on declining volume, it's still a promising bull trend. A couple other things that are also promising here that you're not really seeing in CleanSpark, you're not really seeing in Mara. I'll show you a couple other things too. But before I do that, I just want to show you the Ichimoku Cloud. Right now, price is kind of broken below the Kijun down here, is kind of doing a little bit of back test, seeing a little bit of weakness, having a hard time kind of break back above. I'm not sure if this is necessarily going to last too long. Maybe for another week or two, I don't know. I suspect price is going to end up breaking above. The reason why I say that is because the Kijun is also uprising, is kind of been upstepping like that. So I think that is far more likely this is going to be serve as more of a support than resistance. And I think that is eventually going to break about this resistance, going back above the Kijun and to challenge the Tenkan up here. Right now the trend is still bullish on a weekly because you can see Tenkan is above the Kijun. The line that's leading is above the line that's lagging. This is a bullish trend. But there are a little bit of weakness that you're seeing here. Plus, we only have really 2 days of the week. The volume's a little bit high, so you might actually end up having a little bit of a higher volume candle here that's going to be a red candle, depending on how the week closes. Still 2 more trading days. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But the Ichimoku Cloud still shows a bull trend, although it's hitting a little bit of resistance. Same thing is happening if you look at just the weekly moving averages. It's kind of a little bit below the 20-week moving average. Kind of serving a little bit as a resistance, but because the 20-week moving average is pointing up, it's probably not going to serve as very good resistance for too long. It's probably going to end up breaking above of it eventually. And it still looks like 20-week moving average is still going to probably want to keep pointing up moving forward. So it's probably not going to serve as very, very good resistance moving forward. 20 above 50, above 100, 100 starting to flatten. This is a pretty nice weekly bull trend, even though the 20-week moving average is going up, still up pointing, and I just don't think this is going to be necessarily a very good resistance moving forward. Although currently it is still resistance. So that's what I'm saying is this is not as bullish as Mara. Mara is already, the price is already above the 20, and I mean it looks like it's probably about to ready to go potentially pretty soon. Bitfarms lagging behind, maybe because of this week's news, maybe because the whales are playing the games, maybe because Bitfarms is not a very good stock, maybe their miners are not very good. I don't know, okay? I happen to think the contrary, but the weekly moving averages are still stagnant on the bull side. This still looks like a pretty nice bull trend. It's just kind of lagging behind Mara. And is way lagging behind CleanSpark, but what isn't. A couple of pretty interesting indicators I want to show you that I think actually is a pretty bullish development. One is you actually see a bit of a hidden bullish divergence going on here, where price, the bottom part of the price has been going up, but you have a RSI reset down here. So all of this could just be kind of helping reset the RSI before its next move up. That's always a possibility, but this is a pretty nice hidden bullish divergence over here, textbook, on the RSI. If you also look at the unbalanced volume, you can also see a very, very strong hidden bullish divergence here too, as price, the bottom parts kind of go up a little bit, but the unbalanced volume just drops down significantly, right? So you're also talking about a hidden bullish divergence with the OBV on balanced volume against price. When you see these kind of divergences, it makes you wonder, hey, you know, the momentum actually looks like it's resetting. Maybe there's some bullish momentum that's going to happen pretty soon. And right now the price, even though it's kind of gone down, is still not gone down below this potential trees or bottom here. Usually these trees are pretty decent bottoms. You know, you see on the weekly, when I was seeing that, I was kind of thinking, hey, you know, there's a good chance price is going to potentially bounce up from here. Obviously, it didn't end up doing that this week, and it just ended up having that, you know, CEO change news and just kind of bounced down. It is what it is. You know, price doesn't have to do what I think it should do. I'm still more interested in trying to identify the trend. The trend is still bullish. It just still looks like it's going up on a channel. And it looks like the selling volume, at least over the last few weeks, seems like it's kind of been going down. So could this be a potential warning sign? Could it be going down lower? What happens if it goes below, let's say, this wick right here, 1.9? What happens if it goes below 1.9? Why do you worry about all that? You know, we'll look at that when it gets there. And also, you're also talking about this current price right here is getting into some pretty decent support over here at 2.1. I wouldn't necessarily get too bearish when price is at support, right? And again, I just kind of show you that price is kind of going above on this channel over here. So it's at the bottom of the range. I'm not sure it's necessarily time to get bearish about it, right? But regardless, the trend, the weekly trend, the monthly trend, everything is still bullish. Despite any potential drop down here, even if price drop down below 1.9, the weekly moving averages are still going to be pointing to the bullish side. They're still not going to be at risk for having any bearish crosses of these 20, 50, and 100 moving averages. Anyway, getting close to about 25-minute mark. I think I spent a little bit too much time talking about Bitfarms now. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Bye.